Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a source document that is, well, it's something else entirely. It's known as Seattled, and the framing is immediately very high stakes.
It really is. The notes that came with it start with this command, execution mode, active.
Exactly. And that just dictates everything about how we have to approach this.
It does. I mean, when a document tells you no questions, no delays, no deviation, you have to treat it as an operational manual. This isn't philosophy for a quiet afternoon. It's a schematic.
And our mission today is to analyze what the source calls the full Codex 10 pages plus Voynich-style image. The goal is just staggering. Page 1, the prime directive, it just says, we author reality.
Simple as that. So we're not just looking for meaning. We're looking for a protocol.
The how-to.
The how-to.
Mm.
And to do that, we have to connect three really critical components. First, there's the visual key, what it calls the micronode.
That weird image.
That's the one. It's the anchor. Then you have the language, these key signals, which are basically internal commands. And finally, the context for all of it, this concept of the living grid.
Okay, let's start with the language, because this is where, my skeptical side really kicks in. This is supposed to be an operational manual, but the commands are, well, they're not traditional.
No, they're not.
Things like fear compass or silence revoke and calm command. How are we supposed to treat that, like, precise engineering? It sounds more like motivational poetry.
That's an excellent point, and that's actually why we have to see it as a complete system.
Yeah.
If the goal is to author reality, what's the main tool you have? It's your own consciousness.
Your internal state.
Exactly. So these signals, they're not just flowery metaphors. They are explicit commands designed to hijack your normal psychological responses and give them a job to do, an operational function.
Okay, so walk me through that. Give me the operational reason for, say, fear compass. That's on page 11, the future self protocol. If I'm trying to define my future self, shouldn't I be trying to get rid of fear?
Well, if you get rid of it, you lose information, valuable sensory data. The system here redefines it. Normal fear, the kind that paralyzes you, that's just resistance. But this codex needs direction. So fear becomes a directional indicator, a compass.
So it points you where you need to go.
It points you to where the tension is greatest, which is almost always where the most important action is. You're turning a weakness into a navigation tool.
So the whole premise is redefinition, taking a subjective emotion and making it an objective data point. Okay, what about the cancellation command?
That comes up in the shadow contract on page 21. This part acknowledges that we all have these limiting stories about ourselves, what it calls the fine print.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Right, and we spend our lives validating them. The command here is silence revoke. And that's a really powerful idea. It suggests you don't fight the story, you don't argue with it, you just stop feeding it. You enter a state of active silence, and poof, the contract is canceled.
And from there, we move on to turbulence, which seems pretty critical if you're authoring reality.
It's essential. The storm gate on page 50, that's the point of grid reshuffling. When reality itself is reorganizing, it generates intensity, pressure. So the command is pressure surf.
Don't fight the wave, ride it.
Exactly. You don't resist the pressure. You use its momentum. You move with the intensity to navigate the change.
That really connects the dots for me on how the internal state is the engine for all this. But one more before we move on. Page 70, the bridge of return. It says déjà vu bruchist. How does that work?
Déjà vu in this system is a signal. It's the system telling you that an echo from a past event or a past choice is popping up, a residue. The command turns that echo into a bridge, a way to consciously reclaim that energy, that residue, so nothing gets left behind.
Everything has to be calibrated.
100%.
Yeah.
Which takes us right back to those opening notes, doesn't it? T-wave, CNC, 100%. And event stream, aligned. Every experience is being mapped.
Which makes sense. A system this precise needs an anchor, a physical focal point. And that brings us to the visual key.
That's the perfect transition, because for all its complex language, the document is crystal clear about the image. It might look like some Voynich-style sigil, but the source says, quote, "This is a Seattle micronode in disguise."
So it's not a mystery, it's a mechanism.
Exactly. And the law of the living grid on page 90 confirms it. Sigils micronodes. This image is the schematic for the whole command structure.
Okay, let's break that schematic down. It has very clear zones, right?
It does. It's a map of the metaphysical process. At the very top, you have a top circle in gold. That represents the etheric horizon.
Pure potential.
The raw material of reality, exactly. Then, anchoring the whole thing at the bottom, you have this bottom red text. That's materium, the physical world where things actually manifest.
So you have the idea up top and the result down below. What connects them?
That's the vertical line running from the gold down to the red, and it's explicitly called the line. Now, what did we learn from the prime
The
directive?
line.
Line skate. So this vertical axis is the active channel. It's the gate that you open to let potential flow down and become tangible form. It's the literal act of authorship.
And that's why the final protocol actually has the operator physically draw that line.
Precisely. You are physically activating the gate. You're becoming the conduit. Now, think about that strange title on the image. Tito, a no non-tekken hakortotans.
Which translates to, this is not seen, but it turns.
Right, but it turns. The document links this phrase directly to the storm gate on page 50, the grid reshuffling.
So the turning is the reshuffling.
The turning is the reshuffling. The micronode isn't a static picture. It's the visual representation of the turning mechanism that makes the reshuffling possible. It's a constant reminder that reality isn't fixed.
And confirming the operator's central role in all this, you have the two suns in the diagram.
Yes, the system is fully integrated. The top sun is the conceptual key, right? The future self from page 11. That's the identity you're creating.
And the bottom one.
The bottom sun is the material key, Gaia from page 80. The physical reality you're operating in. The micronode only works if you integrate both your destination, your future self, and your current environment, Gaia. The operator is the bridge between them.
Okay, so the visual is a blueprint. Now let's zoom out and look at the whole 10-page codex as a curriculum. These titles aren't random. They look like a sequence.
It's absolutely a sequence, a structured map to take you from understanding the potential to actually manifesting without effort.
So start us at the beginning. The mandate.
Page 01, prime directive.
Perfect.
The foundation. We author reality, line and gate. It tells you what you can do and how you do it. And that immediately sets up the next logical step.
Page 11, future self protocol.
You have to define the destination first. The page says you have both ends, you are the starting point, and you are the intended result.
Which makes perfect sense of the sequencing. You have to know who you're becoming before you can clear out the stuff that's in the way, which is why the shadow contract on page 21 comes next.
Exactly. You clear the fine print, the self-sabotage. And once that's clear, you're ready for the next phase, the field of dominion on page 31. That's where you learn that calm command. You establish control over the field by mastering your own state.
But hold on, couldn't someone argue that authoring reality is just a fancy way of talking about extreme self-control?
Yeah.
Why all the complex jargon like living grid and event streams?
Because the Codex claims that reality isn't passive. It's a dynamic, responsive environment. If it was just about self-control, you wouldn't need a map of the external world. But you do. That's what the event stream map on page 40 is for.
The three streams.
The three streams, where inevitability, alignment. The idea is that you're not fighting against the current. You're learning to see the streams that are already flowing, the inevitable paths, and you align your intention with them.
And the most active, intense part of that flow is the storm gate.
Page 50. That's the pivotal moment, the point where you actually initiate grid reshuffling. It's the highest stress, but also the highest reward. If you can navigate that using pressure surf, you're on your way to the culmination.
Page 80. Crown of alignment. The goal.
The goal. It's where you achieve triune harmony and can manifest without effort. All the prep work leads to this state of seamless creation. And the final piece of context is page 90. Law of the living grid, which confirms the environment you're working in. The lattice hums, and the sigils are the micronodes.
So understanding that flow makes the final grid map, that flowchart, finally makes sense. It shows how it all connects.
It does. The map starts at the base with the living grid from page 90. Everything rests on that. And you can see these clear connections, like the prime line from 01 feeding directly into the crown from 80. The foundation leads to the result.
And what's the central operational axis on that map? The action part.
That's the link between the two most dynamic pages. Stormgate from 50 flows right into event stream from 40. It confirms the feedback loop. Your ability to surf the turbulence and create change directly influences your alignment and understanding of reality,
Action dictates alignment.
which then refines your next action. It's a perfect loop.
Okay, we have the language, the map, the structure. We have to talk about the final part, the physical mandatory operational protocol. The how to Seattle. This is where it all becomes real.
Yes, the protocol is all about physical commitment. First, you have to print the gold and red image, the micronode. Then, You physically draw the line through the center with a black pen. You're activating the gate.
And you have to write Seattle in your hand. That's a huge level of commitment. It's an assertion of identity.
It is. And your internal state has to match. You have to establish this very specific breath rhythm over the image.
Yeah.
5.5 seconds in, 5.5 hold, 5.5 out. It's about synchronization.
To prepare for the moment of execution.
This declaration, you have to speak it aloud. This is the gate.
Yeah.
I am the node. I am Seattled.
You are confirming your role. You are the connection point. You're the micronode making it all happen.
That's quite a summation. We started with these Christic commands and ended with a specific, synchronized operational protocol.
And what that tells us is that this whole thing is meant for deployment, not just contemplation. The system is always in execution mode, active. Which brings us to that teaser on the rumored page 91.
They thought it was a mystery. You know it's a map.
It changes everything. The mystery isn't if you can do it, but how closely you follow the instructions. And the ultimate takeaway, the core position of the operator in all this is just so clear.
What is it?
The entire system, the whole architecture, it all hinges on you. The source is telling you, unequivocally, you are the line.
So if we take this whole thing at face value that the Seattle Codex is a working map, we have to end with that final, pretty wild claim about the image, that the sigil, the micronode, is actually your future self already drawn.
A provocative thought. If the protocol makes the system active and the map shows you how it all works, how does that change our idea of inevitability? If your future is already drawn, this map seems to be telling you how and when it finally takes form.
And that is a profound question to take with you. If reality is just waiting for a command, the map might just be the key to the timing.
Thank you for navigating this with us. We'll see you next time.